Hello, and welcome back to our next maths lesson. And this time we're continuing using the same method we have done for the last two lessons, and just expanding upon it. And we're going up to 4 digits times by 2 digits. Now, what I will say is that the method that we're going to use today is the same method that we've been using for the last 2 days. And actually the math involved is relatively straightforward. But what I will say is if you're unsure, go back to 2 digits times 2 digits and watch the column method again, because actually it makes our lives much easier because it is very simple. It breaks it down in simple steps, but it also means that we can very easily use the same method on this one. Now, of course, I'm going to go through it, but just if you wanted to make the numbers easier, go back to 2 times 2 digits and see the method there. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at this this calculation, sorry, and we are going to see what's different and what's the same, and how would we write this out to solve it. So have a think. Pause now. Okay, so what's the same is that we're timesing by a 2-digit number, and the difference, and the only difference, is that we're adding an additional column, the thousands column, to our top number. And how we would write it out is identical to what we've done before. We're just going to use our columns, place the big number on top, we're timesing it by the smaller number, and then we're going to think about how we split it up. So in this case, we've got two parts what we're doing. The first part is the top number, 2,313, times by the ones, the bottom number, and that's a 2. So let's do that first. 2 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Then we do 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Then 2 times 3 again, which is 6. And then 2 times 2, which is 4. And all we're doing is timesing this one here by each of the different columns individually. And what this means is that we only ever have to deal with single digit multiplication. None of you should have an issue with these particular calculations, because all of this is in the 2 times table, and all of it is just a single figure that we're dealing with. Yes, we have to remember that it's in the particular column. So this one here, for example, is in the hundreds column. So it's not just 3, it's 3 hundreds. But even if we write it out as I'm timesing 2 times 3 hundreds, then even then we do the multiplication. 2 times 3 is 6, and we keep it in the hundreds column. So it's 600s, and there it is. So the multiplication we have to do isn't difficult, it's just remembering the column that we're putting in. Now, when we come to think about the next section, so this is what we've done so far. The next section is that we're timesing by the tens of the double digit. So in this case, we're timesing by 30. Now, the easiest way to do this, and the first thing you should do, is times the 10. So if you think about this 30 here, this 30 is the same thing as saying times by 3 times by 10. 3 times 10 is 30. So we can do this and do this timesing by 10 first. And what timesing by 10 does is move everything one column bigger. So we can just put the 0 in there, which counts as timesing by 10. The only thing we're left with then is timesing by this 3. So what we can do is just times all of these numbers by 3 and fill them in from this column onwards, because we fill this column. So the first part we do is 3 times 3. 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So it goes into this column because we're just going to fill up in the next available space. Then we do 3 times 1, which is 3. 3 times 3, which is 9, and 3 times 2, which is 6. Again, the actual multiplications you're doing aren't that difficult. That's all the actual math you have to do in your head. It's just making sure that you remember we're timesing by this 10, and that means when we're timesing by that 10, we have to add that 0 in. Now we've got one step left that we have to add all of this bit's answer together. And we've done this so many times that hopefully it's second nature to you. 6 plus 0 is 6, 2 and 9 is 11, 6, 3 and 1 is 10, 4 and 9 and 1 is 14, and then 6 and 1 is 7. So we think our answer should be 74,016. Let's have a look. 74,016. And if you follow that, no matter how big your number is, you shouldn't go wrong. And you only have to deal with your times tables. So if you know your times tables, that's the only calculations you're having to do, and therefore it should make your life a lot easier. Here's another way of looking at it, and this is the grid method. So this is the same multiplication that we've done here, 2,313 times 32. It's just another way of looking at it, and you can fill in what you're doing. So in this case, we're going to times by 10 first, and then we're going to times by 1,000. You can just see 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. Quick way of doing it, but it knows that you're then setting into the next column. Then 2 times 3, which is 6. Then we do the same here. 3 times 3 is 9. Same here. Timesing by 10, timesing by 10. 2 zeros, 3 times 1, 3. 1 0, timesing by 10. 3 times 3 is 9. Then we go down here. 2 times 2 is 4, and then we're going to times it by 1,000. 2 times 3 is 6, times it by 100. 2 times 1 is 2, times it by 10. And 2 times 3 is 6. And then we add that all together. And we got 69,000, 4,300, 90, 20, and 6. And they're all the bits that we have here, except the 600 seems to be missing. So let's have a look and see whether we are missing this from this calculation. We do 60,000, 99,000, 4,000, 600, 300, 90, 20, 6. Can add them all together. So we do the one column first, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 6. Oh, that's nice and easy. The next one, lots of zeros again, and then 2 and 9. 2 and 9 make 11. Then we do this next column, lots of zeros. 6 and 3 is 9, plus that 1 is 10. Next column, 4 and 9, and the 1 is 14. And finally, 6 and nothing but this 1 gets us to exactly the same answer. And yes, look, this 600 was missing, but we remembered it. So well done. Now, I want you to have a go at this calculation. Here's our framework. This is how we're going to do it. Remember first what you have to do when you're timesing out the 30. Pause now and have a go. Okay, so let's have a look. These are going to be our calculations. We're going to do 6,324 times by 3, then 6,324 times by 30. Before I start, I'm going to times out that 10 because just makes my life easier. I'm timesing by the 10 that's there. This is timesing by 10, so that puts that there. And then I don't have to think about it again. It's already in there, should be part of my structure, and it's done. I know that I can't then make that mistake. So let's go back. Then I can do this next step. So timesing 3 times 4 first. 3 4s are 12. Then we do 3 times 2 is 6, plus that one is 7. Then 3 times 3, which is 9. And then 3 times 6 is 18. Then we go on to the next one. I've done my 10, so I'm good. I can just now times this 3 by all of them. So I can do 3 times 4, which again is 12. I can do 3 times 2, which is 6, plus the 1 that I've got here is 7. I can do 3 times 3, which is 9. And I can do 3 times that 6, which again is 18. And then I just add it all together. 2 and 0 is 2. 7 and 2 is 9. 7 and 9 is 16. 9 and 1 is 10, plus 8 is 18. 8 and 1 and 1 is 10. And 1 and 1 is 2. So our answer should be 208,692. And we got it right. And there's lots of tricks you can do in order to make sure you know that you're going to get it right. Let's have a go at one more. Try and solve this. Pause now and have a go. Okay, first step, we work out what we're timesing by. So we've got a 2 in the ones column and a 50. Next step, next thing we do is we take that times by 10 and we put it in there straight away. Done, don't have to think about it. Already done, I can't make a mistake by forgetting about it when I get to it. Then I can do 2 times 5, which is 10. 2 times 4 is 8, plus that 1 is 9. 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times 4 is 8. And that's straightforward. Then we've already times by the 10, so don't have to worry about that. We can do 5 times 5 is 25. So there's my 25. Then 2 times 4 is 20, plus that 2 is 22. Then 5 times 1 is 5, plus this 2 is 7. 5 times 4 here is 20. So we put the 0 there, the 2 there. There's nothing else going on because there's no more here. So that 2 just becomes a big 2. And then we add out. 0 plus 0 is 0. 9 and 5 is 14. 2 and 2 and 1 is 5. 8 and 7 is 15. 0 and 1 is 1, and 2 and nothing is 2. So our answer should be 215,540. I hope that makes sense to you. If not, go back and have a look again at each step I'm doing it. So if we think about the steps that we're doing, the first thing we do is we sort out what we're placing here. So we partition our second number. Our second step is to times this 10 and place this 0 here. Then we can times each of our 2 digits here by each of the numbers in the top and place them after this 0 or straight away. Then we just add them together. Here's some questions. Have a go. The framework is already set up for you. Remember, as the second framework here, you can see that in all of these, what's there. And if that's the case, in these ones, what's going to be here? Have a go, see what you can do. Pause now and try. Okay, so let's have a look whether our little method works. Here's our answers. And you can see that they've done each step here. They've talked about what the missing numbers in the calculations are here. Those obviously come from that 12. It's just partitioned down to become that. And all we're actually doing in this one is adding. In this one here, once again, this 17 is partitioned into 10 and 7, and we're adding it together. This one, that's partition the 31 into 30 and 1, and then we add it together. On 2 here, we're doing the same thing. Partitioning the 25, timesing by that 10, and then timesing each digit out. Same here and same here, and there are our answers. So have a look at this one. Pause and have a look. What can you spot? What errors can you spot? What have they done wrong? And yes, more than likely, the big one is there too. Pause now and have a look. Okay, so our errors. Hopefully you spotted some. There are some which are more in depth. The first one is that 4 times 0, which would be this number here, is 0. It's not 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 0 is 0. The next one is that we didn't times here by this 10, did we? We didn't do this timing by 10, and we need that 0 in place there. And that's the one that classically people get wrong. And the next one is this 2. 2 times 0 isn't 2, it's 0. And all of these then have a knock-on effect to our answer, which we then have to add together again to find the correct answer. I hope you noticed some of those mistakes at least. And it's useful to have a look at something like this because a lot of those mistakes are classic mistakes that people are going to make. When timing by 0, putting the number rather than 0, forgetting to times by that 10 and putting the 0 in place, the placeholder 0 in place, and then having to double check themselves. So finally, we get to our questions, final questions for today. And some of these are quite hard. So think about it, don't rush, think about it. Use your setup, so that frame, to do these questions. If you use the frame, the structure, the scaffold, in order to set your question out right, then it's less likely that you're going to get something wrong because you already got steps in place in order to get you to the answer. If you are struggling, write down the questions, go back to when I talk through that structure and that method, and do it with me, but with your numbers rather than the numbers I'm doing. And that way, hopefully, you should do okay. Pause now and have a go. Okay, so the answers for these are here. And I hope this makes sense to you. So for the first one, you just got your answers of your different sums that go here. For the next one, you've got what product. Product means you're multiplying the two numbers together. So again, you just do your multiplication to multiply to the, and we get our answer. And then over here, we've got a couple of additional steps to go through. One, when you're timesing 270 by 39 to find the answer here, then you're finding the difference. If it was 39 or 49, the difference is you need to work out this answer. And then after you found that, take the first one away from it, so you get the difference. And remember, difference is always a subtraction sum. And then the next part is the profit per shirt is £10. So work out 27 times 10. That would give you whatever the answer happened to be. So I hope you understood that lesson. I hope it was okay. If not, go back, have a look at that method again, or go back to previous ones and have a look through those. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next lesson. Goodbye.